It is Saturday the 5th of December. It's been about 5 weeks since you guys have had a podcast, but it's fine. I'm with James. The weather in Madrid is fucking cold, but nice. How is the weather in the northwest of England?
It's okay actually. It's blue sky, probably a bit chilly out, but I don't go outside anymore, so it
Gucci?
doesn't matter.
Perfect.
Perfect indeed. Yeah, it's. I'm trying to remember how these even work. We've had quite the break.
Yeah, I mean, well, we've done our introduction, and I guess now we just kind of need to jump into something.
Yeah. What do we want to talk about? We marked the films we marked. Um,
I reckon we start with an easygoing one. So I suggest we talk about Forgetting Sarah Marshall for at least
yeah,
five
I
ten
was eyeing
minutes,
that as well actually. So
just to get used to things.
yeah, yeah. So I watched as I after I watched this, I was like, yeah, I actually enjoyed that. I thought it was just going to be pure lightweight, but I had a good time. And then I looked on Letterboxd, and you were also um, like I can't remember what you've given it. You've given it like 4 or 5 stars.
Four,
So
4 stars, yeah.
I was like, okay, this is
It's it's one of the solidest like romantic comedies out there. Like it's up there with. I know it's all by Judd Apatow, who does all these the same movie basically over and over again, but it's it's like the 40-year-old virgin and things like that. It's just like it's super silly, but at the same time has like loads of good beats, loads of cool side characters that are really funny, and like it's just good. And
yeah,
yeah, I love
and
that
not
movie.
and not too by the numbers. I think
No,
that's the
there's
main
like
thing.
yeah, it's I mean for 2008, like it pulls. It's not like what's that movie that I watched one time? Do you remember Will Ross from
Yes.
high school? Shout out to Will. Um, he had like a going away party thing for his when he left Baines, and so me and Bill got invited. And it was like chicken pigs and pickles and some other people I can't remember, but we couldn't get in to watch The Mechanic, that Jason Statham like action thriller that's shit. So my mum, they just said, okay, right, you're gonna go and watch this movie, and I can't remember what it was, but it was like a Paul Rudd and Jennifer Aniston or someone like shitty romantic movie that was complete trash. And the only good thing that happened was that Alex and Josh Hughes had like a mini fight in the middle of this fucking showing where um, Alex was going past Josh. Oh no, it was Will and Josh. Will was going for a wee, and Josh had his feet up on the seat, and Will was like, "Move," and Josh sort of just looked at him and then watched back at the movie. So Will just goes "Ugh," and fucking smacks Josh's legs. Josh screams, "Ow, fuck!" and then basically chased him out the cinema. And I ran out and was like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, the cinema dude was like, "Guys, no." So we went back and for some reason we stayed and finished the movie. We could have just got pizza and like left, but we stayed. So my point being, it's not like so forgettable that when your friend attacks your other friend in the middle of the cinema, you're not going to stay and watch the movie. You should have left. It's that good. Yeah,
Right.
that's my analysis. That's my
That's
that's my
your
evidence.
wow.
I've made my
I mean,
point.
you
I've
sure
explained
know how
it.
to like detour away from the point before making it, but you got there.
I'm quite roundabout. There's always a story. You've got to get through my story, and then I'm going to be like, okay, now my analysis has come. This is what I meant.
Yeah. Sometimes you need a bit of help reminding where you started, but
I think sometimes I just like telling funny stories, so my mind just sort of wanders. Anyway, as it's going to happen again, it is
anyway.
a good rom com with lots of good characters and lots of funny moments. And obviously Russell Brand plays this like this insane British like rock star. That's not too far.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's playing like a bit of a caricature of himself, but he's quite good.
Yeah. I did like though that he's not just like usually in the rom-com, his character is just like the villain or
Yeah.
the dickhead completely. Like he has no other dimension. But there's
No.
like several scenes where he's just chatting to other characters and there's no real. They're not like being antagonistic. They're
No,
just kind of getting on.
he's just doing his thing like when he shows do you remember the Christian couple where the wife really
Yeah.
wants to have sex and the guy's like no 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 um which is always they've got like quite a few funny bits but I think it's when um Peter Jason Segel stops drinking every breakfast and every lunch and he sees Russell Brand teaching the Christian guy how to like have sex and stuff in the sand and it's like his character is like loopy and he's a bit of a cunt, but he's also like just being nice and like helping people when he sees them and stuff. So he's not like as bad as his other characters.
Yeah, it was. I liked that at various points it wasn't so clear cut with like protagonist and antagonist,
No.
which I think a lot of rom coms often have.
Oh yeah.
You have the couple you're shipping, and you have the other person who they deliberately make you dislike and root against.
Exactly.
And there's never like a scene where there is just like a pleasant conversation. They're always portrayed as the baddie, which is just
Yeah.
I'm
Just
not
basic.
really complaining about formulaic rom coms being formulaic, but the point is that this one wasn't. It had scenes
No.
where they all go out for dinner, and some of it's pleasant conversation, some of it isn't, some of it's interesting,
Yeah.
but they had enough to make it feel more like reality.
Yeah. I mean,
Whether
they could have they could have just told a story of um, main guy gets fucked over by his successful girlfriend, and he finds another girl that is nice to him, and then they have a good time, and that's it. But the whole point is that he's trying to get over his ex, but then she's at the same fucking Hawaiian resort as him. But there's that scene where, obviously, like for most of the movie, you think Sarah Marshall is like a bitch. Like you don't like who you think she's stuck up or whatever. But then there's a scene where they argue, and she's like, "No, I shouldn't have cheated on you, but like I don't regret leaving you because you were a nightmare to deal with just as much as I was. You know, it worked both ways basically. So they didn't
yeah,
make it just this like
yeah,
horrible character that you're always gonna hate. They were like, no, maybe like it wasn't a perfect relationship on both ends. So I liked that like duality to it. It wasn't so one sided like most things are.
yeah. I liked that he's a bit of a mess, and like part of the film is like, yeah, no, he needs to sort himself out a bit.
As well. Yeah,
Do
exactly.
you know? It's not just like it's not just oh you should you know
It's like
love this guy for even though he's a bit of a pathetic
loser.
person at the start or
Yeah.
whatever.
It's like
Um,
no, it's not like fixing going and getting another girl's not gonna fix all your problems. Like sometimes you've got to do some shit yourself.
yeah,
Yeah, which is cool.
yeah,
Some
yeah.
really
It's
good
like an
bits.
actual film. It's
Yeah,
an actual film with developed characters,
yeah.
which maybe sounds like a low bar, but actually no, it
When you make
works.
when it's like funny as well, and like there's some interesting dynamics, then you get like an enjoyable experience. Like just having Paul Rudd be this like stoner surfer dude who left the states and now calls himself Kunu, and just forgets
Yeah,
everything. And then when Peter and Alda Snow have like a splash fight on their surfboards, and then a wave comes in, and a piece of coral somehow gets stuck in Alda Snow's leg, and Peter has to like carry him onto the shore and plops him down, and he eventually has to pull the coral out, and blood spurts out, so they both pass out, and then Kunu's like just has to deal with the situation and get an ambulance and stuff.
and it's just
Like
useless.
it was just good. It's just I must have watched that movie at least 10 times because I'll watch
Oh
it.
wow,
Honestly, like I think because it's one of those that was always on Sky a lot, and now it's on Netflix. Um, like and obviously for like a 12 or 13-year-old, it's going to be like very funny, right? But I think even now that
Yeah.
I'm 23, wow, um, it's like a
So,
comfort movie. I watched The 40-Year-Old Virgin like the week before. They're like two of my like those two and Superbad. I think they're all done by the same dude. They're like super comfort movies for me. I'll always laugh. They're like, you know, 3 to 4 stars, probs. They're just good.
yeah. Yeah. I think that kind of it helps as well. I do if you've watched them, you watch them at the right time. So
Yeah,
you watch them when you were younger and you're enjoying them again. Whereas I've watched as a 20-something-year-old both 40-Year-Old Virgin and well actually all three, but 40-Year-Old Virgin and Forgetting Sarah Marshall I still liked. Whereas Superbad, I just it didn't. It's okay. Like it was alright, but like it didn't. I think I would have needed that nostalgia from watching it as a teenager to find it.
Superbad is the ultimate like teenager movie because I mean like me watching if I watch Superbad now, like how much am I going to relate to these characters that are in high school? They're nerds. They are so desperate to have sex and to do this stuff, but it's like I've been doing that. Not that it matters that much, but I've been. This is me basically going, guys. I have sex. I'm really cool. No,
Yeah.
but
I'm not a virgin.
basically, I don't care about that shit anymore. And even then, I wasn't that bothered about sex anyway. But you know, the things that the characters want, I don't relate to as much. I just remember the situations they find themselves in and think it's funny, and therefore I still enjoy watching it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Whereas now, if I watched it and I'd no knowledge, I'd be like, apart from maybe the cops and McLovin, I think those
yeah,
three. I don't so much laugh at the Michael Cera and other guy. I can't remember his name, but I always laugh at the cops and McLovin. I think they're the actual like true stars of that movie.
yeah, yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong. Like there is laughs in it. I'm not, you know. It's just like okay.
Yeah,
But I could see how if I'd have watched it, 10 years ago
yeah.
and was rewatching it now, I'd probably be more fun.
I think as well, it's just little things like the amount of like homophobic slurs that were in movies or TV shows up until like 2014, 15, 16. I don't know when we stopped doing that, but it's a movie where I can't even say it. The F word is said a lot, and it's all like cocksucker this and F word that, and like the in betweeners is so good as well. But and obviously, don't get me wrong, like half the jokes that I said in high school were, haha, you're gay, without, really even knowing what that meant. So it's just like,
Yeah,
it's sometimes I have to like, just sort of be like, okay, this is the time this was made, but it's still a bit icky now and then.
yeah. I guess that's. I nearly fell off my
So I was like, oh shit.
chair. I think that's part of it with some of these films where if you watch them at the time, you have that context for this. This wasn't abnormal. This was how a lot of people talked, and
Yeah,
you maybe are more forgiving of that because that's how people were in school, and you watched it when you were in school.
yeah, man.
But yeah, when you come back to like that is a good point. Um, when you come back to that as an adult, you are just like a lot of this joke, a lot of the humor in this relies on you laughing at, yeah,
Just,
things
it's
like
like really like
cocksucker.
low blow stuff as well. Like really low blow. Whereas there's a show that I like called Trailer Park Boys, where I think one of the characters is bi and one of them is gay, and it's like hinted at in the first couple of seasons, and then they find the two characters having sex, and one of them's in a bumblebee costume, and the other one's in like a bee catcher costume, I think. Um, and they're in like a Canadian trailer park, so they're all supposed to be like obviously they're all dumb, they're always in trouble. It's like just a pure comedy show, But when they find the characters, like the three main characters, find the two other characters like doing it or about to do it, they're obviously like, Randy, why the fuck are you in a bumblebee suit? And Miss Leahy, why are you in this like costume? And they're like, and they're like, whatever, like we don't give a fuck about this, about the sex stuff or the gay stuff or the bi stuff or whatever. That doesn't matter. We more care about this stuff. Like we think you're arseholes, but that has nothing to do with it. But in the show, Bubbles will always say cocksucker is like his line when something goes wrong, or if you like, he's been stealing trolleys from the supermarket and they all like upend themselves and crash everywhere. But it's not like homo. It doesn't. He's not saying it like a homophobic way because he doesn't care. It's just like it's just
a swear word.
Yeah, it's just a swear word. So I feel like Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and I think 40 Year Old Virgin, to be fair, was in 2001, has a couple of gay things in it, but I think they're probably better off, but not bothering with that kind of humour.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it all ties into that insecure teenager.
Exactly.
You're insecure about it because they're all virgins, right?
Exactly.
You know, so that it makes sense. It's not like I don't know.
I mean,
like write a strongly worded essay on it.
No.
It's just
I really.
If the film was made now, you wouldn't get them.
You'd just be like, what the fuck? You'd just be like, that's not okay. It will be that the F word is probably on its way to being like the N word, and that it will only get used in like historical, or if the character is like a homophobe or a racist, right? That's like the only time that the words will get used in media. Like you won't just have another character being like, ha ha, gay, or anything like that. It'll just be, you know.
Yeah, that is dated.
It's dated, yeah.
Shall we say?
By about 10 years, basically.
Yeah.
That got very serious for a talk about rom-coms and Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Superbad, but they're good movies.
Yeah.
I always enjoy watching them.
I suppose off the back of, I suppose, social issues, another film I watched was Black Klansman.
Black Klansman's decent. That's a decent movie.
Was. I was pleased. I thought it looked good in the trailers.
Me too.
And then I watched it and I liked it, which is always nice because there's many a time where you think you're looking forward to something, maybe you haven't watched it for a little while and it's just all right.
Yeah.
But no, I enjoyed it. It was funny in places and interesting or tense in others.
Definitely. I really liked that because obviously it's like Black Clans. It's such a good idea. But then I liked that it didn't just like it showed that like the KKK, they do not like Jewish people either. And I liked that they had a Jew and a black man as the two main characters, and obviously them swapping is like he's on the phone, but then the Jewish guy goes in. Adam Driver goes in person. I thought it was going to have a bit.
It did have an interesting dynamic, I suppose.
The dynamic
because in reality, the main guy is real, but Adam Driver's character is
fiction,
altered. There was a partner involved, but he wasn't Jewish.
Ah, right, okay.
So that is something they added in. I can kind of see why. And I don't think, like, sometimes we talked a little bit about films on reality before, where you're like, why did they change that? Or you feel like they're misrepresenting it in some ways. You know, they've made that character an asshole when he wasn't in reality.
Yeah.
And that feels unfair. But I think in this case, it's not. It's been done to allow for more discussion,
Definitely.
more points to be raised.
Yeah.
In a way that, and it it doesn't impact really on the story other than allowing that discussion. So it didn't. It's one of those ones where I was like, oh, for once, I actually understand why you made that change.
Yeah, it was a good change. I agree. And yeah, it's one of those where I'd wanted to watch it for quite a while, and then I watched it and I was like, yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. And then, but I don't think it's one that I'd rewatch because obviously I'm quite
Yeah,
on watching stuff over and over again, like a lunatic. But there's one of those that, like, and the film doesn't have to be rewatchable, but it's one of those that I watched it one time and I was like, thumbs up, good, and then walked away. And I think that's pretty decent, to be fair. That's like a good thing for a film.
yeah, I liked it. I think maybe in some ways the fact that it is based on reality was a hindrance.
See, I didn't even know that.
That
It must have been because I've not watched it in so long, but I either
yeah,
forgot or didn't even know that.
because like I think if you'd have if you'd had if story had been fiction, maybe there'd have been more of a complete arc to it, or because
Right.
it
Okay.
ends basically with um, the wife is putting the bomb
That's
on
it.
the house, but she can't fit it in the letterbox, so puts it by the car. And
Yes.
the other guys who have the detonator don't know, so they pull up next to the car and detonate and kill
That's it.
themselves.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be more of like a bigger thing towards the end. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, and like I guess there's some kind of element of karma, or like their own hatred comes back at them.
Yeah,
But just the way it all plays out, it's a bit too neat. It's a
it
bit
is
like,
very like
how are they going to move?
driven.
How are they going to move on from this? Oh, because everyone who knew is dead.
Yeah, they all died.
you know, it and they killed themselves, so we don't even need to feel any amount
Yeah,
of guilt. And there's no question of whether it was right or not to kill these white supremacists because they killed themselves.
it's done. Do not think about it anymore. Enjoy the movie.
Yeah, which is fine, and because of how it's based on reality, and how they're moving out, I don't even know how accurate that scene was.
No
I
idea.
don't know if I read up on that. But I can see why. But I feel like in fiction, you could have had a much more interesting and dramatic climax to the film that really makes you
Yeah,
ask some uncomfortable or difficult questions. Um, so yeah, maybe that film would then be more rewatchable.
yeah.
But yeah,
That's
still not a bad film.
no. That's like the only quip, like thingy that I'm gonna go with thingy. That's my technical term for today. Thingy. That's the only thingy that I'm a bit like. We could have been just a little more, but other than that, pretty good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't disappointing.
Brilliant. Do you reckon we've got time for one
Just
more?
kind of yeah. I'm just scrolling through the ones I've watched because I've watched just far too much in some ways.
Fifth Element.
Um,
Fifth Element.
Fifth Element. Okay, you you can have a say, I guess, in what we talk about on this podcast.
Yes.
So I watched The Fifth Element,
That movie
which
is so good.
you had recommended. I think it was actually on the podcast, or it was in our chat before
I
and
think so.
after.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was good.
It's so good.
I watched it with my dad.
Oh shit!
It was
Nice.
like a good. It was a good sit and watch it with my dad kind of film, actually.
Yeah.
I liked lots of things about it. It reminded me a little bit of Blade Runner in that it had this kind of cool new sci-fi setting, and I really felt like I was in this new sci-fi
Yeah.
setting. But instead, because I liked Blade Runner, but I liked Fifth Element more, and that partly it's because instead of kind of being too slow or meandering or thoughtful, it was ridiculous.
It was so
And that
ridiculous.
just kind of did it for me.
Yeah. I mean, I love both movies, but The Fifth Element, it's got to be like the campiest, most ridiculous sci-fi movie, up there with like original Star Wars or something. Um, but it's like it's so dumb, but still so good and like genuinely good. It's not just fun because it's being silly. Like it's being silly while also like being interesting and being like good to watch.
Yeah, and manages to pull off like having these MacGuffins basically. You know,
Yeah,
like there's so many films where like I don't know, maybe it's because it's been done since or just where it's like, oh, there's these ancient hieroglyphs that tell us we need to get these stones to save the world. Is
yeah,
like, how many movies have you seen that in? But
many.
somehow when I watched it, it didn't bother me. I was like, it just kind of
Yeah,
worked.
it just works.
Um,
And even when one of the stones turns into Mila Jovovich, like you just kind of roll with it. It's fine.
yeah, this is just a person.
It's a person now, and she's barely
They have,
wearing any clothes.
yep, and everyone loves her,
Yeah,
and
Milu, is
that's
that a name? Milu, I think.
Milu.
Lilu, I can't remember.
It was a bit ridiculous. It's like we have fire, air, water, earth, woman.
Woman. The fifth element. Yeah, there's just so much. Like that's not even like 10% of the dumb stuff in that movie that's amazing at the same time as well. Like holy shit.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, just
I mean, the best character
so
in that
stupid.
movie is Chris Tucker, without a shadow of a doubt. Chris Tucker is so like, how did he not get an Oscar? That's my question. Like, he was robbed of whatever
he's
year. Like,
he's
honestly,
ridiculous.
so funny.
I think the scene I found funniest was the one where you know when he gets his invite
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
then everyone's coming to like visit his flat,
yeah.
and so like he's put the military guys in the fridge
In the fridge.
because he's pretending he's hiding from his wife,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then he puts Milu in the shower to hide from whoever else is then at the door, and the other guy is hidden in the bed. And his sign's moved off his door to another door, so the other group that's looking for him has gone to the wrong flat and picked up some other guy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's just like this whole sequence of just so daft and so slapstick, and actually just somehow worked.
It's
I don't know
perfect.
how they did it really. There's so many scenes like that where like I've seen people try and do that so many times and it's been so lame,
Yeah,
you know, or so overdone. And this was just ridiculous, but they did it. They pulled it off, and I can't even really articulate why it works, but it just does.
there's so many moving parts, particularly to that scene. There's like so many characters, and the timing's got to be like perfect for like each bit that happens. Um, but
I think it
I
helps that
I can't describe it either.
you have Bruce Willis as the lead,
Yeah.
so so often in that scene, your lead character is like Mr. B. You
Yes.
know, so like
Yes.
they're trying to be ridiculous and goofy, and like, oh look how wacky our character is.
Hmm.
Whereas like the main character is meant to be like the tough guy, but he's
Yeah.
involved in all this slapstick. So I think that's maybe why it works. You know, it's just you kind of don't expect it, and it happens very organically.
Yeah, I mean,
And
he's
yeah,
like a rough space taxi driver. He's literally a cabbie. Like he's supposed to be chatting to you about how he drinks too many pints, on weekends and stuff. But instead, he's like it's thrust into a role as a savior as can possibly be thrust into anything. Um,
yeah,
yeah, that cast, man. Fucking Bruce Willis, Mila Jovovich, Chris Tucker, and then Gary Oldman with a lisp and a weird haircut. like,
yeah. Carry on. It was such
like,
a weird. Yeah,
like Gary Oldman.
I
For
mean
fuck's sake.
that tells you a lot about that movie just when he appears on screen.
Exactly. It's some of the most
And
fun
Ian
ever.
Holm as well, just
Yeah,
in
yeah,
there
yeah, yeah.
running around.
So good. Fuck. I
So
mean, the
yeah,
fact.
that was a good recommendation.
Thank you.
I rated it.
It's one of those that I watched stoned, like real stoned, but I think I'd have enjoyed it just as much, even if I wasn't stoned. So I think I might
Yeah,
rewatch
I enjoyed it sober.
that. Yeah, that one's a really good one. Really good one. I can't believe I'd never seen it before. Like, how has that just never popped up as something that I should watch? But there you go.
Yeah, because it's not like new.
No, I think it's been around as long as we've been alive. So somehow in 23 years I've never managed to catch it.
Yeah, it was 90. It was 97.
97. Yeah, here we are in 2020 watching it.
Yeah,
It's great.
it's good. It's really good. Right, I reckon that's
That is about it, I
about
think.
half an hour of chat. We've
Yeah.
done an episode of a podcast.
It's
First time in
happened.
yonks.
Finally.
We managed it. Pat ourselves on that. Well
Yeah. Okay. So we will. You got a 50% chance of seeing us next week, I reckon. So let's leave it there.
Yeah. Yeah. Flip the coin.
Well, let's see.
And hope.
Okay. See you all next week.